Hello and welcome back to Race Recap. My name is Jackson. This past weekend we had the NTT Indycar drivers heading up to Indianapolis, but they were on the road course this past weekend. Now here's a look at the Indy road course. It is just like the Charlotte Roval and the Daytona road course, basically just a road course inside the big oval. We see turns 10 and 11 up here. That's actually the short chute down in turns number 1, but it's a part of the road course, as well as the front straightaway, but they run it backwards on the road course, so not the same way as on the oval. And also the pit road is, of course, right here, down here, all the way down the front straightaway, and they enter down here in turns 13 and 14. Now, the race was 85 laps, but it was a crazy race, and probably one of the craziest, not the craziest, IndyCar races I've ever seen, because there was rain in the forecast, and for some reason, I don't know why, I've really never seen IndyCar race on the rain before, and the announcers were saying that this was going to be one of the craziest races in history, and it really was. 2 pages worth of writing it was. And it all started out early on lap 1. There was no caution when the 8 of Marcus Ericsson spun out with the 15 of Graham Rahal. Then there was no caution when Kyle Kirkwood started to spin. The first full course caution happened when the 10 of Alex Palou spun around and got stuck out on the track. And it was starting to get a little wet. The drivers started on wet tires because it was declared a wet race. A few switched to the red Firestone tires, which were slicker, which did cause a couple of these spins. And the next spin actually happened when the 14 of Kyle Kirkwood went around and went through the grass. The second full course caution was for the 2 of Joseph Newgarden, who spun and had some suspension damage after this spin, causing him to go to the garage for a handful of laps. It did end his chance for a win, but he would later come back out onto the track. Then the third caution was brought out when the 21 of Rinus VeeKay on this restart spun out and was hit in the nose by the 29 of Devlin DeFrancesco. Francesco in the 29, he actually hit with his front wing, so there really wasn't that much damage on his car. But there was a pretty good amount on the 21 of VeeKay. Then the fourth caution was for the 4 of Dalton Kellett. This was a pretty lengthy accident. He went off track and made a little bit of contact with the barrier, so there was a little bit of repair there. And also the rain was starting to come down a bit heavier at this point, so a couple guys like Alexander Rossi and Jimmy Johnson were switching up back over from the Firestone red tires over to the wet tires. Then when they got back going, there was no caution. The 51 of Takuma Sato spun around. The fifth full course caution was brought out when the 5 of Pato O'Ward spun around after making contact with his teammate McLaren, the 7 of Felix Rosenqvist. Both of them had a little bit of damage. Then we had to go on to the back page, and almost a complete back page. There was no caution when the 28 of Romain Grosjean went sliding. Then there was no caution down in the short chute area. That's turn 12. It was when the 14 of Kyle Kirkwood was hit hard in the back by the 15 of Graham Rahal. Rahal just locked it up on the wet, and then he ran in the back of Kirkwood, resulting in big gearbox damage for Kyle. And that actually, they gave a penalty to Graham Rahal for incident, or for avoidable contact. Then the sixth caution was on the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, spun around, and actually right in front of the leader at this point, the 26 of Colton Herta. Under this caution, the rain started to pick up dramatically. A bunch of guys came in to get the soft tire, or this isn't Formula 1, but they got the red Firestone tires, which was the slicker, not the rain tires, and they immediately came back in the next lap. So the whole field really did this. So they were all in the same cycle. But a couple guys stayed out, including Rinus VeeKay, Graham Rahal, Scott McLaughlin, and Pato O'Ward, trying to stay in front of the field, get some track position, and hopefully hold off, while the rain would hopefully hold off for a few more laps, as it was nearing the end of the race, under about 20 to go. Well, then under the caution flag, Rinus VeeKay went sliding, so that was just kind of a tale of what would happen on the restart if he couldn't handle it under caution flag speeds. Graham Rahal couldn't handle it either. He also slid under caution flag. At this point, then, the race was given 20 minutes to finish, so laps were taken off the board, and it switched over to like an IMSA race where it's a timed race, so 20 minutes went up on the clock to finish the race. And then, before we could even get back going, Scott McLaughlin, who was running up front, spun out once again under the same caution, the 6 for Jimmy Johnson. And when they got back going, they didn't make it far. The 7th full course caution was brought out for Scott McLaughlin, who spun around again. Of course, he was on the softs, didn't have much of a chance there. And then under caution, Pato O'Ward, who was up front in second place, he was in first actually in that last restart on the soft tires, couldn't handle the wet under this caution, and he spun out as well, and eventually had to come down and get some wet tires. And now it's pouring. You can barely see the cars. All you can see really is that red flickering light in the back. And then the final 8th and full course caution happened, and it did end this race. It happened just a couple minutes left in the race. Actually, it was the 6th of Juan Pablo Montoya, who was getting ready for the Indy 500 and was actually running well inside the top 10 when it looked like he may have just slid off in the short chute in 10 and 11 and made some pretty big contact with the outside wall, resulting in big left side damage, and that did end his day, unfortunately. And the checker flag in this race, as the race ended under caution, went to the 26th of Colton Herta. So the top 10 here after a crazy race were Colton Herta, Simon Pagenaud, Will Power, Marcus Ericsson, Connor Daly, Felix Rosenquist, Takuma Sato, Callum Ilott, Christian Lundgaard, and Scott Dixon rounded out top 10. The next race, Juan Pablo Montoya was out for the accident, along with Kyle Kirkwood and his AJ Foyt teammate, Dalton Kellett. Well, that's all for race recap. Come join us in about a week when we will have the starting grid for the 106th running Indianapolis 500. And remember, there is not going to be a bump day. All 33 cars will start the 500.